Hi guys, Jaryd Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And today we get to speak to Brian, who's just bought his first ever website business. It's an over a 400K purchase. It's a SaaS website business model, and it's in a niche that he's been in for quite a while. He's also actually worked for the competitor of the business he's just bought. So he's got a massive advantage with the business he's just bought in ways that he can scale it and bring on team members as well, which he's already done. Now, the reason we have Brian on today is to go through the process of him buying his first website and him depicting what he actually learnt, what worried him, what scared him, what he learnt along the way, and what was very, very helpful to him along the way as well. So if you're looking to buy your first website business and you don't know how the journey is going to pan out for you, be sure to listen to this episode because it's very, very valuable.
Today's episode is brought to you by Investors Club. Investors Club is a paid members-only marketplace for serious buyers interested in proven businesses that aren't listed anywhere else, because sellers sign a 2-month exclusivity agreement to only list with the membership. Now, there's also no purchase fees or commission, meaning the seller nor the buyer ever pay commission in any deal. Each listing has next level metrics to make due diligence far less time consuming, making it quicker for you to seal the deal. With a membership, you have access to a no fee escrow service, and they have great Q&A support available for both buyers and sellers. I'm a member myself, and a lot of thought and effort has gone into this service. However, there are a limited amount of seats available for this membership, so go and check them out at their URL, which is investors.club. That's investors.club.
Welcome, Brian. Thanks for coming on and having a chat to me and everybody else. But most importantly, congratulations on your first online business purchase.
Thanks.
We actually haven't verbally spoken since you bought it. How are you feeling?
I'm pretty happy about it. It's a whole mix of emotions, right? It's scary and exhilarating all at the same time. I've owned this business for a month now, and things are pretty much working out the way I was hoping they would. So it's a good sign.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's good. And like, you bought an online business, you're kind of in the online business space, which I'm sure we're going to get to. We'll chat about more about that shortly. But what led you to finding out about, hey, I might buy my own online business? How did that come about?
So I've been working for a SaaS company for a while, and I was looking for the next thing for me to do in my career, right? I've been doing this for about 15 years, and I was considering going to go spend some money to study to get an MBA, maybe changing my career to go work at a different company in software, maybe doing something in a completely different space. And so I came across the idea of buying an existing business, and I thought that would give me more practical experience than an MBA and the opportunity for making money instead of just spending money on tuition. So that's kind of how I came about it.
You know, they say the best way to learn business is to be a business. And this is what I teach you guys as well in the community, is that like, you can learn all the theory, but you need to take that and put it into action, because that's where the real learning happens. Did you notice that there was a massive difference between if you were to just go through all the theory and all the lessons and all that sort of stuff, you wouldn't have learned as much as you have as taking that and putting it into action?
Absolutely, right. You know, reading about how to do something is very different than actually executing it and learning from doing it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. And so you've been working a little bit in other online business, and you've had some skills as well. How did you find out about me? Like, did you look at this space first and then I sort of popped up, or did I pop up first? Like, because it's different with everybody. Sometimes they're just like, oh, I didn't even know this existed, and they found it a different route. And then sometimes they oh, this podcast, this is new, didn't know about this, and they go down that route. Mm-hmm. How did it evolve for you?
So I had been doing research for a long time about buying businesses, and particularly online businesses. And through some of these, I discovered some of these marketplaces and brokerages online, and I was looking for resources to help me with due diligence because I wasn't really familiar with that process. You know, it seems like I had some pretty good instincts about some of the basics, right? But I found a couple of different podcasts that mentioned buying online businesses, and I was referred to a number of books and resources, right? So one of the things that was really helpful that I found from your resources was a due diligence framework, which, like I said, it kind of validated that I had some pretty good instincts, right? But it also filled in a lot of holes that were really specific to buying businesses in the online niche, right? Because there's resources for buying businesses across industries, right? But it was really hard for me to find something that was specific to the online business niche.
Yeah, I found that the same for me when I first started, and that's why I evolved into this, because there was nobody really teaching it. For everybody listening, you can get that free framework from, just go to my website and you can download it for free. So check that out if you want. Yeah, cool. So what was your biggest, like, you came into the space, you knew you wanted to buy a site, and you started doing your GD. Like, you came across me. What was your biggest fear or challenge around, like, should I work with this guy? Should I not? Like, what was the biggest worry about deciding to take that step?
Yeah, I don't know if I was particularly worried by the time I asked for your help, because I think you're pretty upfront about what your experience is and where you can add value and stuff, right? And I thought it was a great value for money. And I was, being in the field that I am, I guess, and with the in the circle that I have of people around me, right? There's nobody that I could really talk to about this, right? So I was really hungry to have some advice from somebody who had relevant experience in this space. So I don't know if I had any particular reservations, to be honest. I was really excited to have some help. So.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm glad as well. I'm glad I have been able to help, and everybody else in the community is a good help as well. And that's the thing that I find when people kind of like the byproduct, they see it of like, hey, I want to get some help from Jaryd. And do the due diligence and all that sort of stuff. But the byproduct that they see is that there's a whole bunch of people in the same journey, which is all support there. And I find that not to be a byproduct. I find that to be like actually a core part of it. What was your like experience of being a part of the community, learning the lessons and working with me and everybody else involved?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Working with you is one thing, right? But there's a lot of value I found from the community as well. Even immediately just reading through some other posts from other people in the community, even if they weren't directly relevant to me, it felt like I was in good company, right? Some of the same thoughts that come across my mind, some of the same anxieties. And that made me comfortable enough to go like ask specific questions about my situation, and inspired me to kind of try to help some of these other people that are on the same journey as well, right? Because I have very recent, very relevant experience to some of these same pain points, right? So it's just really satisfying to be able to help people in that respect as well, which I didn't even expect to be able to do when I first started your program. So.
It's actually pretty scary to reach out for help. It's like a part of you dies and goes, oh shit, like I'm actually accepting that I want help in this area. And then it's also scary to like be in a community and put your hand up and be seen and speak out. And then again, even because in our society, a lot of people, we're looked down upon by asking questions, which I think is just insane. And it's really cool that, like, what I love about it is that people do ask questions into the group, and when people first join, they're like, oh wow, like they could have learnt something that they may never have learnt before, because they may never have thought to ask those type of questions, right? Like, it's the same when I've gone into different communities. I'm like, I never even could have imagined of thinking of that thing, and it may not have helped me at that time that I read it, but just learning it, I can apply that in 6 or 12 months time, and I feel that a really, really, really valuable thing. What other things do you find about being in a network that was valuable to you?
Look, I think one of the most valuable things to me is just increasing my confidence and stuff, knowing that I'm not out in left field doing something that's never been done before. And yeah, it's probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah, for sure. It's that's the thing, is like 2 people is good, but when you've got, like, if it's just me and you, it's great. But the power of it alone is in everybody else too. It's so powerful. So, so you went away and you did your due diligence, and what were some of the things that you love to learn through the process? Like what did you pick up on that you never thought, oh, maybe that wasn't something that I would have learned if I had done this myself? Like, because there's so many little things to it, right? Like in the due diligence phase, it's crazy.
Yeah. So there's a whole ecosystem of tools out there that I wasn't aware of, and they were kind of hard for me to absorb how to use and what to use them for until I was going through your framework there. So my background is kind of, loosely speaking, is kind of in software development, right? So I'm pretty good on like the technical side of things. I have some investing background, so I'm like, some rough experience, like looking at balance sheets and P&Ls and this sort of stuff. But the part that was really missing for me was the sales and marketing side of things. In principle, like I know what those words mean, right? And I know what it means to do sales and marketing, right? But in terms of like doing due diligence on a business, right, that's a really important aspect that I have really no experience looking at, right? So I was introduced to a whole set of tools that allow you to look at things like page authority and traffic and all sorts of keyword tools and all these sorts of things that help validate for me that if a site is on firm footing, right? So it's a whole discipline that I'm still learning about, right? But I got enough confidence from the tools you suggested to know that at least I'm not getting into a lemon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I say. Let's not go away and buy a lemon. That's what those tools are for, is like, I feel that a lot of people, they just get pretty excited by the numbers when they see, oh my God, I can buy a business, online business, and the returns that are being made. And that can draw them away from the importance of needing to first understand the risks that are involved with the business, and then asking ourselves, are we okay with those risks in that business? And first, to ask ourselves, are we okay with those risks in the business? We need to understand them at a deeper level. And that's just what those tools are there for, right?
Yeah. And that was super helpful.
Yeah. So you went away, we did some due diligence, you put an offer in a business, and you bought one. Congrats. It's really cool. It's a massive turning point, and it was a massive turning point for me, massive milestone. And I know that you can see the trajectory of it now, and we've already talked about some of the stuff just backwards and forwards digitally of where you want to take it, which is cool. So you bought your first site. What type of business was it, or what business model is it? How does, just give us a bit of a rundown of how it works, how much you bought it for, and all of that sort of stuff.
Right. So it's a B2B SaaS company, and it's in, I would say, the software development niche, right? So it's a B2B SaaS tool for small and medium businesses that have software development teams, and it's a tool that provides a place for software developers to store their source code and collaborate on that source code. So there's some project management and issue tracking tools, as well as a version control system on the site. And there's, I think a wiki and a blog feature as well. And there's some other small features for remote deployment and things like that. There's a couple of competitors in this space. One of the things that was attractive to me about this business, one of the many things, is that I used to work for one of the competitors as a contractor. So I was very familiar with the space. And it was a bit of a surreal moment to me when I realized they basically have exactly the same business as this competitor that I was working for at some point. So I really understood the back end of the business, the technical side of things, not so much the business side of things. But throughout the due diligence process, I learned as much as I could about the competitive landscape in this market and what the business side of things looked like. So we went into LOI at 460,000.
Yeah.
And after we went into LOI, I got access to more financial records. I did more forecasting, trying to project their P&L statement for the next few years out. And the revenue is declining more than I had originally projected. So we went back and negotiated again, and we renegotiated the LOI at 400 with a $60,000 seller note. and we ended up closing at that price. So
yeah, congrats. And
I'm
guys,
happy with
just
it.
for everybody listening, LOI stands for letter of intent. You put that in, and that tells people, or tells the seller or the broker that, hey, I'm actually very interested in proceeding. You get some more information, which you did. And what you decided to do was bring out a different structure offer, and rather than just paying a lot more in cash or just a bulk sum of cash for the site, like minimizing your risk through a seller note and other tiers that we sort of like worked out together, which is going to help you have a decreased risk through purchasing the business, which is really cool. So from the four what? Sorry,
I think we were at 460 first time around, and
yeah,
then we ended up
460.
closing at 400.
Yeah. And roughly the business at the stage of buying it was making how much per month?
The SDE was 190,000 a year.
Yeah. So divide that by 12 and you've got
that's
15.
15.8 thousand.
Yeah. Cool. So guys, you can work out the multiple and all that sort of stuff. It's quite a good multiple for a SaaS site, because the SaaS site is, you've already got a base and a foundation of people that are already paying on a recurring basis. And then what we're going to work on next, Brian, is how do we decrease churn rate and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I should mention, so I found this at a broker, right? And the original asking price was like 768,000, right?
Yeah.
And just looking at the P&L and stuff, you know, I told them, I was very upfront. I was like, the multiple you guys are asking for is kind of crazy here. And they were willing to work with me, and we just kept the conversation going slowly. And then I laid out what I thought my projections were for something that made sense, and they went for it. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up as well, because getting that down to a reasonable price is very important. And sometimes people just see a business and they just feel like, all right, cool, it's, you know, we're going to put in something around there. And what, I don't know if you got this from the training and the lessons and stuff like that, but what I tell everybody in the training lessons is to work out what you, after doing all of your due diligence, and sit with it in your heart, in your stomach, and not just analytically, but work out what you actually feel it's worth, right? And sometimes it may be less, and often case it is less than what the seller and the broker put up there. And this is very common with a lot of businesses, not just yourself, Brian, have bought, but you know, other clients of mine. We're not buying them for the actually asking price. Because it depends on the business model and how much we come under and stuff like that. And but you know, I just want everybody to understand that that's not like, hey, we're just going to go in around that price. Like if somebody comes and has a chat to me, I can help them save tens of thousands of dollars just in one sitting of a conversation, which is like far cheaper than the whole cost of working with me at all, right? So one conversation can save you a lot of money or make you a lot of money if you're speaking to somebody who's done this regularly. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. The whole process from the first call with the sellers to finally closing the APA was, I think, about 6 weeks for me. And I think I saved myself more money in those 6 weeks than any negotiation I've ever had in my life. So
yeah,
it was a big accomplishment for me personally. But ultimately, there was no other way to buy this particular business, I think, right? But it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, that was the value that's there, and how we saw a little bit of the income decreasing, and what we could do with your skills and knowledge, and also mine, how we could do things differently, and that helped us minimize our risk as well. So yeah, well done on that. And so to run the business, how many hours per week is it roughly going to take you to work on the business or run it? And then how are you, like, what have we got in place now that we've worked on and getting VAs and whatnot to help out?
Yeah, so I've got originally the sellers told me that it was going to take about 10 hours a week to run. And I've owned the business for almost a month now. It'll be a month actually tomorrow. It'll be exactly a month.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'd say that's pretty accurate, right? So I have some initiatives that I want to invest my time in upfront in terms of cost savings and building the top line. So I've been spending maybe 20 hours a week on the business at this point, all through the transition and everything. But I always expected my time to be a little bit front loaded. And I have a friend of mine, not a VA, right, but a friend of mine helping me out with customer support at this point. And he's going to help me put together like a customer service handbook that I can then hand over to a VA when the time comes. But honestly, at this point, the customer service demands have been 4 to 5 hours a week tops.
Yeah.
And at this point in the business, it's good for me to have that exposure to talk to customers and see their pain points and stuff. So I don't mind being close to that at this stage of the business, but at some point I'll probably automate that or make processes out of that as much as possible, autoresponders and those sorts of things that I can hand off to a VA. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's cool.
What else do you want to hear about?
Just as I hear that, I've got a little notes that I want to mention is that you don't want to automate something too much so that it takes out the human effect that may be really important to help keep people on board. People do want to work with humans as well. So that's just a little thing that I want to put a note on. Yeah, man. So congrats on buying the business. Let's wrap up, and I want to ask you what was one of your favorite things about this whole process and going through and working with the community myself, and then also what would be one thing that you'd say to somebody who's thinking about buying a site or working with us?
Yes, my favorite thing. Let's see, so many things. I try to contribute a little bit. I'm not like super active in the Facebook group, but I really enjoy seeing the traffic and the activity going on in the Facebook group because I can learn a lot from that, and I think it's really relevant and it's really current. So that's really helpful. And then just having that resource there to be able to ask questions to kind of in real time and have like the answers like crowdsourced by the community is really powerful. And then one of the things that I struggled with the most in my journey in buying this business was like having the confidence to like execute, to like get it done, right? So I would just say that the community is here to support you, right? So you need to still be confident in making your own decision, right? But using this community is a good way to get the confidence to like actually execute and get something done. So
yeah, for sure. And what would you say somebody that's thinking about like working with us or buying a site and just sort of sitting on the fence about that?
There's very little downside to getting more advice, right? You can decide to not take it if you want to in the long run, right? But even dissenting opinions are a valuable data point, right? So I think if you're on the fence about taking advice, I don't know if we can help you.
You don't know what, sorry?
You should always take advice is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also be careful who you take the advice from, I think, because I've been given some pretty bad advice in my time and I've followed some different strategies that just haven't been the right for me. And it's led me down a path that it's taken me further away from what my actual goal is. So yeah, I would say to people thinking or listening to this is first, just feel into, hey, is this the right thing for me? And is this the right person to help me, or the right strategy or the right process to help me get to what I want? So yeah, awesome, man. Brian, thank you so much again. Congratulations. And I look forward to continue working with you and scale this thing up.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.